The galaxy had grown used to silence, the kind of silence that only absolute domination can create. For more than 3,000 years, the Vargathian Empire ruled every star lane, every drifting colony, every world bold enough to whisper rebellion. Their fleets were unmatched, their soldiers engineered, their will unbroken. So when the alarm shrieked across the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Zarmothal, Admiral Kethral Vorn assumed it had to be a glitch. Empires like his did not panic. But the alarm didn't stop. It crescendoed, sharp, metallic, almost panicked itself as crimson lights washed over the control room. Technicians scrambled to their stations. The starfield ahead rippled like heat haze. "Admiral," shouted the sensor officer, her voice thin with fear. "Unidentified vessel exiting folded space vector aligning with the core passageway." Kethral straightened, his forefingers curling against the command rail. "Origin?" The officer swallowed. "Unknown, sir." Unknown. That word didn't exist in the Empire's military dictionary. Then the tear in space widened, fracturing reality like glass. The bridge went silent. A ship emerged. Massive. Cold. Elegant in a way that made the Empire's brutalist war machines feel primitive by comparison. Its armor plates shimmered with shifting pigments, silver, black, deep ocean blue, and colors Kethral couldn't name. Its energy signature burned with impossible density. What class of vessel is that?" whispered Commander Shirek. No one answered. There was no record, no blueprint, no historical reference, no archived encounter of a warship like this. One of the helmsmen leaned forward, her facial ridges pale. "Admiral, this energy reading. This shouldn't be possible. Power core is unquantified." "Unquantified?" Kethral growled. "Give me a scale." "We don't have one." Across the dreadnought's projection table, a hologram materialized, showing the unknown vessel in full detail. It dwarfed their battleships, yet somehow seemed built for precision rather than intimidation. It looked like a weapon designed by something ancient. Something dangerous. Something patient. What species dares violate Imperial territory? Kethral demanded. The translation AI chimed in, decoding the foreign signal emanating from the newcomer. "United Earth Defense Flagship, Hyperion. Authorized personnel only. Trespassers will be fired upon." The bridge froze. Earth? Hadn't that primitive little blue planet been classified as non-threat, a pre-FTL anomaly discovered centuries earlier and left uncolonized out of disinterest? Shirek's voice trembled. Humans were supposed to be irrelevant. They don't possess warp drives. They barely left their solar system. Kethral stared at the hologram. "That," he said slowly, "is not a species struggling with primitive technology." A junior officer turned toward him, panic breaking through discipline. "Sir, if this ship is representative of their military, then we have drastically underestimated humanity," Kethral finished. But the thought that humans, could create something like this was absurd. Every empire and dominion that had encountered them reported the same thing: fragile bodies, limited lifespans, slow advancement, naive diplomacy. Nothing about them implied godlike engineering. Unless the reports were wrong. Unless humans had been hiding. Preparing. Watching. Unless their unremarkable facade had always been a mask. Before Kethral could order long-range scans, the Hyperion spoke. The ship didn't hail them on standard frequencies. It didn't transmit messages. It projected directly into their minds. A voice echoed across the bridge, not human, but an AI, smooth and cold as drifting ice. "This is the Earth Defense Flagship Hyperion. Stand down. Hostile action will result in immediate neutralization. This is your only warning." Shirek stumbled backward, clutching her head. "It's inside my neural net." "How advanced is their AI?" The Admiral clenched his jaw. "Human vessels do not issue ultimatums to the Vargathian Empire." "But sir." "No. If they seek war, they shall have it. Charge plasma batteries. But even as he barked the order, doubt coiled inside him. Power readings from the Hyperion continued to climb, past dreadnought output, past supercarrier thresholds, past anything the Empire had ever catalogued. "Sir," the weapons officer shouted. "Their energy spike is destabilizing our sensors. We can't maintain targeting. Compensate." "We can't. They're generating more power than a star core." As the Empire's largest dreadnought struggled simply to track this mysterious intruder, the Hyperion emitted a pulse, not a weapon, not an attack. A scan. A sweeping, casual scan that pierced every defensive field the dreadnought possessed. It felt like being dissected. Analyzed. Judged. The AI's voice returned. Imperial vessel classified as hostile. Threat level, moderate. Engagement optional. Moderate? The Empire's flagship? Kethral slammed his four-fingered hand onto the console. "I want fighters deployed. Notify Lord Regent Vorex. Humanity is." He didn't finish. Because at that moment, the ship began to open. Its hull separated into interlocking plates, sliding aside to reveal deep within a glowing core surrounded by rotating rings of gravitational energy. The color of the light was wrong. Not blue. Not green. Not any color the Empire knew. It was something older. And the readings were catastrophic. Shyrex's voice rose sharply. "Sir, if they fire that weapon." "Then we fire first," Kethral said. "On my mark." But the Hyperion didn't fire. It held position, silent, unmoving, waiting. As though daring them to make the first mistake. Hundreds of light years away, deep beneath a classified U.S. command bunker in Colorado, Captain Elias Ward watched the same unfolding scene on a quantum-entangled display. His jaw tightened. "They found us," said Dr. Caroline Hayes, the lead architect of the Hyperion program. Her hands trembled over the console. 3 centuries we stayed hidden. 3 centuries of preparation. And now the galaxy finally knows, Elias said. Hayes whispered, "We were supposed to reveal ourselves on our terms." A comms officer stepped forward. "Sir, we're receiving the Vargathian fleet's response. They're preparing to fire." Elias exhaled slowly. It was only a matter of time. "Should we recall the Hyperion?" Hayes asked. "No," he said. "The ship was built for this." But beneath his calm voice was something heavier: fear. The Empire wasn't just powerful. It was merciless. And if they realized what the Hyperion truly was, they would stop at nothing to destroy Earth. Back aboard the Imperial Dreadnought, Commander Shyrex's hands hovered uncertainly over the firing controls. "Sir," she whispered, "if humans possess technology at this level, then war with them could doom us all." For the first time in his decorated career, Admiral Kethral Vorn hesitated. Not from fear, but from a sense that they had stumbled into the presence of something mythic. The unknown ship's energy core pulsed. And then, a second rift opened beside it. Another vessel emerged. Sleek. Black. Silent. Then another. And another. The bridge filled with horrified whispers. "Multiple contacts, 8 new signatures, 12, no, 18 Admiral, the humans have a fleet." But Admiral Kethral realized the truth before anyone spoke it. These were not additional ships. These were drones, extensions, shadows of the Hyperion itself. A single warship with the power to command an autonomous fleet. Humanity had not just built a superweapon. They had built a legend. Kethral's final whisper broke the silence. "What have we awakened?" And the Hyperion spoke one last time. "This is your final warning. Stand down. Or be erased." Reality shivered as the autonomous vessels fanned out behind the Hyperion. They weren't traditional ships at all, more like fragments of a single consciousness, slivers of a larger machine mind drifting into formation with predatory grace. Admiral Kethral Vorn had witnessed entire civilizations kneel before the Vargathian Empire. He had commanded fleets that blotted out moons. He had shattered rebellions, extinguished species, silenced suns. But nothing had ever made him feel small. Until now. "Admiral, orders?" Commander Shirek whispered. He didn't answer. He was staring too hard at the spectral war machines surrounding the Hyperion, each one mirroring the flagship's impossible energy signature. Humanity was not just advanced. They were evolved. Ascended. Shirek's voice cracked. "Sir, if we attack, I fear we will not live to report what we've seen." "And if we retreat," Kethral said, "we admit weakness." "Sir, we are weak." Silence swept the bridge. No one reprimanded her. Because every officer felt the truth in her words. Before Kethral could respond, the AI's voice returned, cold, emotionless, yet undeniably intelligent. "Imperial vessel, your targeting systems are primed. Final chance to disengage." Kethral glanced at the tactical display. The Empire was already responding. Thousands of ships across nearby sectors were redirecting toward the anomaly. Reinforcements would arrive within minutes. The galaxy's greatest military power would not allow a lone intruder, human or otherwise, to threaten their dominion. "Cancel all weapon priming," Kethral ordered. Gasps erupted around him. "Sir?" Shirek's eyes widened. "We will not fire the first shot," Kethral said. "But prepare all defensive systems." That was when the first blast hit. Not from the Hyperion. Not from the Empire. From a third source. A beam of molten blue energy lanced through the void, clipping one of the newly arrived autonomous vessels. The drone flickered and rewrote itself, a self-repair sequence, while the blast dissipated in a spiral of spatial distortion. Kethral froze. Who fired that? Sensors scrambled. Officers cursed. And then the answer came through. "Sir, long-range scans confirm a new contact signature. Vargathian." Kethral's blood turned cold. The Empire fired first. But not by his order. Across the bridge, another officer paled. "Admiral, incoming priority channel from the Regency Council." Kethral didn't need to hear it. The Empire had chosen war. The decision was out of his hands. Colorado, U.S. Deep Earth Command Site. Captain Elias Ward watched in mounting horror as an Empire-class battleship fired again, its beam carving the void like a blade of raw starlight. "They opened fire," Elias whispered. The war room spiraled into noise, alarmed voices, red lights, flashing alerts. Dr. Caroline Hayes slammed a palm against the console. "Hyperion's defensive drones are responding. They'll protect the flagship, but if this escalates..." "It already has," Elias said. Hayes looked physically ill. "We built the Hyperion to deter invaders. Not to wage war on an empire controlling half the galaxy." Elias didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he remembered the mission brief that had forced Earth to build such a terrifying weapon in the first place. A message. A prophecy. A warning from a lost colony of humanity, its final transmission retrieved from deep space only 30 years ago. The Empire will come. Hide. Survive. And when the time comes, unleash what we could not. Earth hadn't built the Hyperion because they wanted to. They built it to avoid extinction. Elias steadied himself. "Patch me through to the Hyperion." The comms officer nodded. "Quantum link stabilizing. Ready in 3, 2. The room fell silent. A hologram shimmered into existence, sleek, faceless, shifting between geometric forms. The Hyperion's AI avatar. "Captain Ward," the AI said. "The Empire has initiated hostilities." "I saw," Elias replied. "What is your status?" "Minor damage to autonomous vessel Alpha 6. Regenerating now. Their plasma-based weaponry appears inefficient against my molecular shielding." "That's not the point," Elias said. "We need to avoid a full-scale galactic conflict. There is a 99.4% chance that conflict is now inevitable. Hayes whispered, God help us. But Elias stood taller. Hyperion, we want peaceful contact. Is there a non-lethal method to force the Empire to stand down? Yes, the AI replied. But it carries risk. What risk? That they may interpret restraint as weakness. Elias clenched his jaw. We're not here to conquer the galaxy. Understood, the AI said. Then I will use minimal counterforce. Define minimal. The AI paused. Disabling their flagship engines without destroying the vessel. Hayes blinked. You can do that? Affirmative. Elias turned to her. If we show them we can neutralize their strongest ship without killing anyone, they might think twice. Caroline swallowed. Or they might panic. Elias didn't argue. Either outcome was now locked in fate. Near the core passageway, Imperial Dreadnought Zarmathal. The flight deck shook violently as a ripple of gravity washed over the ship. Admiral, an officer shouted. The drones, they're moving. Kethral watched in horror as the autonomous vessels surrounding the Hyperion folded into complex geometric formations, mathematical perfection in motion. They're preparing a strike. Shirek cried. No, Kethral murmured. Not a strike. A demonstration. One drone darted forward faster than Imperial sensors could track. It cut beneath the dreadnought's underbelly, leaving a trail of shimmering particles. And then, every alarm on the ship detonated at once. What's happening? Shirek yelled. The helmsman screamed, engine output collapsing, reactor coolant offline, grav stabilizers are. The ship pitched sideways, inertia dampeners straining. We've been disabled, Kethral whispered. Completely. Utterly. Without a single casualty. A feat no empire in the galaxy could perform. And the humans had done it with one drone. One. The bridge filled with panicked whispers. Are we surrendering? Is this the end? They've outmatched us, how is this possible? Shirek turned to Kethral, eyes wide with fear. Sir, what are your orders? For the first time, he didn't know. The dreadnought was dead in space. The Hyperion hovered ahead, silent, watching, waiting. Then its AI spoke again. Your engines are offline. No crew harmed. This is a demonstration. We do not seek your destruction. Stand down. Or next time, the damage will not be reversible. The Empire had been humbled. And the galaxy would feel the shockwaves for centuries. Kethral bowed his head. This is no human ship, he whispered. Shirek stared at him. Sir? It is something far older. And far more dangerous. He slowly looked up at the monstrous warship, its aura shimmering with unfathomable power. What have the humans become? Colorado, command bunker. Elias Ward watched the immobilized dreadnought drift helplessly. Hayes clung to the console. They'll never forgive us. No, Elias said quietly. But maybe they'll fear us enough to listen. A new alert flashed across the displays. Sir, a comms officer said cautiously, the dreadnought is signaling surrender. The room fell silent. No one breathed. Hayes whispered, Elias, what have we done? He didn't answer. Because he didn't know. But the story of humanity had just rewritten itself. And across the galaxy, 1,000 empires would soon learn the same terrifying truth. Humanity was never prey. They were the storm for the first time in its long and merciless history. The Vargathian Empire, conqueror of galaxies, breaker of civilizations, had raised the white flag. Not out of honor. Not out of diplomacy. But out of fear. The Zarmathal, the Empire's most revered dreadnought, floated powerless in the void like a wounded beast. And ahead of it, the Hyperion remained still, silent, vast, and impossibly serene. Admiral Kethral Vorn stared at the monstrous ship through the viewport, dread coiling through every nerve in his body. "This is the greatest humiliation in Imperial history," Commander Shirek whispered beside him. Kethral exhaled slowly. "Humiliation is better than extinction. What happens now?" Kethral had no answer. Because in the far reaches of his war-hardened mind, one truth had taken root. Humanity was not prey species. Not a primitive world overlooked in conquest. Not a footnote in galactic history. No. Humanity had been preparing for the day the galaxy came knocking. And they had prepared too well. Colorado, U.S. Deep Earth Command. A tense silence pressed on the war room. Every general. Every scientist. Every analyst. Everyone simply watched the immobilized dreadnought and the Hyperion drifting before it. Captain Elias Ward stood unmoving, eyes locked on the feed. "We've achieved a surrender," Dr. Caroline Hayes murmured. "Our first contact, and it begins like this." Elias nodded. "Sometimes the universe doesn't give you peaceful beginnings." "But what comes next?" she asked. Elias didn't know. He only knew that humanity had spent 3 centuries rebuilding in the shadows. Hiding their true capabilities from the empire that had wiped out the first human colonies beyond Sol. That ancient catastrophe had forged the Hyperion program in secret under presidents, prime ministers, and global coalitions that swore to keep its existence buried until the empire returned. That day was now. And the Hyperion was only the first of 3 prototypes. Elias turned to the communications officer. "Establish two-way dialogue with the Vargathian flagship. Visual if possible." "Yes, sir." A light flickered on the main holoscreen. The Empire was responding. The war room froze. Then Admiral Kethral Vorn's towering figure materialized, 4-fingered hands clasped behind his back, posture rigid, pride visibly bleeding from him. His expression was hard, but his eyes held something the Vargathians had never shown another species. Respect. And fear. "This is Admiral Kethral Vorn of the Vargathian Empire," he said. "To the leadership of Earth, you have our attention." Elias stepped forward. "Admiral Vorn. I am Captain Elias Ward, Earth Defense Command. We accept your surrender." Kethral's jaw clenched, but he did not argue. "Then let us speak plainly." Elias nodded. "Plainly works for me." Kethral inhaled. "Why hide your true capabilities for so long?" Elias exchanged a glance with Dr. Hayes, then answered. "Because history taught us what happens when the weak reveal their strength too early." Kethral's eyes narrowed. "You speak as if you have encountered us before." Caroline stepped forward. "You destroyed one of our early colonies 300 years ago. The last survivors sent a warning home before you wiped them out." Kethral stiffened. "I was not aware." "Your empire doesn't remember small targets," Hayes said coldly. Silence. For the first time, the Admiral seemed shaken. Genuinely shaken. "You built this," Kethral said, glancing at the Hyperion silhouette on his end of the feed, "as vengeance?" "No," Elias said firmly. "We built it to survive you." Kethral turned his gaze back, something ancient moving behind his eyes. "And now? Now that you have proven yourselves superior, what does humanity want?" Elias took a steadying breath. This moment would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. "We want coexistence," he said. "The galaxy doesn't need another war. But we will not be conquered. Not by you. Not by anyone." Hayes added, "This show of force wasn't to dominate you. It was to make sure you understood that humanity is not to be hunted." Kethral studied them carefully, measuring every word, every breath, every posture. Finally, he bowed his head ever so slightly. "A pact, then," he said. "A ceasefire. Mutual non-aggression." Elias nodded. "Agreed." "However," Kethral added, raising his chin, "I cannot guarantee the Empire will abide by this agreement once they learn the extent of your power." Hayes frowned. "You aren't the one in charge?" Kethral shook his head. "I command the fleet. But the Regency Council rules the Empire. And they will not accept the existence of a species capable of dethroning them. Elias felt the air leave his lungs. So they'll come again. Yes, Kethral said. In greater numbers. With greater force. Caroline inhaled sharply. Then humanity has no choice. Elias finished her sentence. But to step out of the shadows. Low orbit, the Hyperion. In the silent depths of space, the Hyperion monitored the exchange between its creators and the admiral it had humbled. Its AI core processed billions of potential outcomes, probabilities branching like roots through time. When the transmission ended, its avatar materialized on the Hyperion's bridge, fluid, geometric, intelligent beyond human limits. Captain Ward. The Empire's reinforcements will arrive within 73 hours. Elias's voice came through the quantum link. Can we hold them off? Affirmative. But long-term survival requires an alliance. An alliance with the Empire? No. An alliance with their enemies. The ones they oppressed. The ones who fear them more than they fear us. Humanity cannot stand alone. But if we stand with the desperate, we become unstoppable. Elias was silent. Then he said, initiate first contact protocols. On our terms. Understood. The Hyperion extended its wings of living metal and began transmitting across the nearest systems, broadcasting a message that would echo across the galaxy. To all oppressed civilizations. You are not alone. Earth has awakened. Imperial Dreadnought Zarmothal. Kethral watched the Hyperion from his command chair, mind churning. Shirek approached quietly. Sir, do you trust them? Kethral didn't answer immediately. Finally he said, trust? No. But I believe them. Why? Kethral's eyes narrowed. Because humans hide their claws, until they must reveal them. And even then, they do not strike unless forced. That makes them predictable. And predictability is rare in the galaxy. Shirek inhaled. Then what are they, truly? Kethral looked at the warship, at its impossible frame shimmering against the stars. They are a warning we ignored, he whispered. And now, they are a force the galaxy will never forget. Colorado, Earth Defense Bunker. The war room hummed with new energy, fear, hope, ambition, destiny all merging into a single moment. Elias Ward placed both hands on the table. Today, he said, we stopped a war. Caroline Hayes stepped beside him. But tomorrow? Elias exhaled. Tomorrow, we reshape the galaxy. She nodded slowly. Together? Elias looked at her, his closest ally in the Hyperion project. Together, he said. And as the Hyperion drifted before the humbled dreadnought, unmatched, unstoppable, unmistakably human, one truth settled across the stars. Humanity had stepped into the light. Not as prey. Not as survivors. Not as conquerors. But as a force that even empires would fear. A force that would rewrite the fate of galaxies. A force born from myth. Carved by loss. Forged in silence. And awakened by destiny. Humanity was no longer hiding. And nothing would ever be the same.